part of that area being marked for this.
Not at all. It's just this idea was just brought forward. Something that needed across the city and because at one weekend I sat down and I read probably 100 case studies from the University of Chapel Hill, and this was one of the suggestions for small town revenue. You look at, instead of spending, you use your natural resources, and that was the whole concept of it. The hills are a natural resource. It doesn't cost anything.
When they show up, they come in and
I was teasing you. I said, you got something right there.
and the smoke shops were all
Well, even for us, I mean,
then the families would leave and go shopping around. So yeah, they would go to
Too many bodies, I can't get them all in.
thrifty foods, you know.
and
And into the upper end restaurants.
we always stop after an event and ate dinner as a group together with all our families. Find a restaurant and sit down. Okay, good job last week.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
I was up in Glamis, I should have stopped by there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
We're being recorded.
Careful what you say. Good evening, everybody. It's good to see everybody here at this joint meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission for our discussion of the Enduro Bikes race this evening. I want to have Sherry Walker. Oh, first of all, to roll call with Robin.
Thank you. Okay, roll call for Parks and Recreation Commission. Commissioner Boyle?
Here.
Commissioner Kamian?
Here.
Commissioner Gable?
Where'd you get the agenda?
Commissioner Howell?
Here.
Commissioner Holder? Here. Okay, Street Trails and Utilities. Commissioner Burt? Here. Commissioner Turbin?
Here.
Commissioner Walker? Here. Commissioner Thompson? Not here. And Commissioner Naylor?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, Sherry, can you do the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Brian Petrie, our Deputy City Manager, is going to speak about this particular item this evening.
Thank you, both commissions, for being here this evening. A proposal was presented to us for an Empire Enduro Mountain Bike Race. Based on our review of the proposal, we thought it would be appropriate for both commissions to take a look at this. So we created a subcommittee to take a look at that. Those comments will come up a little bit later. And to meet with the developer to look at what they're really requesting and what type of feasible impact we may find that would be part of this event. With that, staff has a report. Patty Ireland, facilities coordinator, will provide a brief staff report, and then we'll have our subcommittee commissioners provide input after that.
Good evening, Commission Chairs and Commissioners and members of the audience. I'd like to thank you first for your time tonight so the proposed Inland Empire Enduro Mountain Bike Race event can be brought forward for discussion. On August 20, 2015, staff met with promoter John Jackson from the Southbridge USA Event Promotions to discuss the possibility of a mountain bike enduro race in the Norco Hills just east of the George Ingalls Equestrian Event Center. Ideally, the promoter is looking at early spring 2016 as part of their silver anniversary tour. There are 3 courses proposed that are not written in stone. The promoter can answer any questions regarding the course later in the meeting. Staff recommended moving forward with further discussions to include members from the Parks and Recreation Commission and Streets and Trails and Utilities Commission activity subcommittees. On October 7, 2015, staff resumed discussions with promoter and subcommittee members, Cahan and Holder, for the Parks and Recreation Commission, along with subcommittee members Naylor and Turpin from the Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission. Although events of this nature take place successfully in other areas such as Fullerton Loop and Marshall Canyon, some concerns were discussed and addressed by the subcommittee members, which included the following. Safety issues of joint use of bicycles and equestrians, possibility of cyclists' repetitive use of the pedestrian equestrian trails throughout the year, liability issues and possible damage to trails. Also brought up was use of pedestrian equestrian trails in the LMD area of Vandermolen, and pre-event education and proper signage. Safety is a priority to the promoter for this event. Having an organized event such as an enduro race in the open space of Norco Hills would require proper signage, closures for equestrian use prior to the event, and for setup and course delineation during the event and shortly after the event for cleanup and needed repairs, if necessary, to the trails. This would eliminate the cross-use of equestrians and cyclists in the trail system during the proposed event. Trail courses would be short-lived, trail closures would be short-lived for approximately 6 hours on the one day. A cyclist riding the open space trails is nothing new to enthusiasts. The use of the mountain bike currently happens here and is not illegal. During subcommittee discussions, it was identified that cyclists understand safety on trails and yield to equestrians they encounter. Continued reinforcement both to the equestrian and the cyclist can be emphasized on installed signs. Although there is a cost associated with signage, it could easily be adopted by a prospective Eagle Scout as a project to complete at no cost to the city. The city of Norco would not assume any liability for this event, and the promoter would provide the required liability insurance, as well as all riders would be required to fill out an entry form, which includes signing a release of liability. As is customary for this type of event, EMT technicians would be on site and marshals would be distributed throughout the course. If during the event any trails are damaged, the promoter would be conditioned to return them to their original state or condition, if not better, at his cost. The subcommittee members felt public education for this type of event is critical in this community, and most importantly, a notification of trails closures is necessary. Flyers can be circulated to all the local organizations and businesses. Social media sites can create an event page for details and updates. In addition, the subcommittee had expressed favorable views for the proposed event, some which included the promotion of Horsetown USA as a destination for individuals interested in this type of event. Bringing ideas such as this event promotes the use of open space, recreational opportunities to the trails. It would encourage new visitors to the George Ingalls Equestrian Event Center and stimulate local economy. Furthermore, in an effort to support local nonprofit organizations, the promoter is open to allowing them to provide food vending at this event as a fundraiser. Minimal resources of city staff would be needed. However, if there is an impact, the promoter would be charged along with any normal permitted fees for full recovery of costs. At this time, I'd like to turn this over to subcommittee members from Streets and Trails, Bill Naylor and Jim Turpin, and Parks and Recreation Commission, Jeff Kagan and Corinne Holder, to provide further input to the commissioners.
Bill?
We did meet, and we did have a fairly thorough discussion on the proposal. A number of concerns were raised about the whether or not the area was appropriate for a bicycle race, safety of the trail, so on and so forth, whether or not bicycles were permitted. In the staff report I see, it only specifically talked about equestrians and pedestrians up there, did not specifically talk about bikes being allowed in the Conservancy area, although at the meeting we were advised that it did. I don't know which is correct. just FYI. I have talked to a number of people within the community, and there are some concerns about the use at that facility or on the trails. I have heard lots of good comments, and I also mentioned that I previously have ridden bikes and such, and I enjoy, riding the trails too. But I'm a big horse person also, and that trail is really somewhat of a concern, and we did discuss that. They said if there were areas that needed repairs or whatever, the biking community said they could come in and do some fix-up of the trails to make it safer for people to ride on. The concern that was raised during that meeting was what would happen after the event. Would it be encouraging bicyclists to continue to use that area for non-competition in anticipation of another one coming up, say in another year or whatever? Because I know this is only a proposal for 1 year, but the discussion said there is a possibility of it might be an annual or even a couple of times a year. And I have had much experience, and I relayed this to the committee, that at Fullerton and also at Marshall Canyon, that those were primarily equestrian trails, and then they would open them up to bicyclists, and bikes have kind of taken over. There's a big safety issue on single track trails, especially that are hilly, because of the nature of the bicyclist. And I'll admit it, I ride too, and I know that when I'm going downhill in rutty area, I'm watching where that tire's going. I'm not watching ahead. And we've had some very close encounters. We had one a couple weeks ago on another trail out in Orange County, and I had a bicyclist slide his bike right within just feet of the horse, and he was coming downhill. So those are areas of concern that were raised at that subcommittee meeting, and I'll let the other commissioners speak to what they observed or thought about it.
Well, I don't ride much anymore, but in all my years of riding, I've ridden a lot of different parks. Out Emmett, Beaumont, I've ridden Marshall Canyon, and I personally have never had an encounter with bicycles that has been bad. I always find them courteous. You have more trouble with them on the street when they're riding on the street. With your car, you have a lot of trouble with them. But I've never had any trouble with them on the trail, anytime. And so honestly, I don't have a concern with this. Be it a one-time event. I would suggest that what Tom brought up about pre-riding, the bicycles pre-riding or coming and riding those trails, getting ready for an event, that if the promoter knows that there's going to be an event on those trails, then he should let everybody know you can't pre-ride those trails, to come out and have fun on them, waiting for that race to come out. So that's what I think about it. I just got a message from Sue Jackson. She's against it, so I don't have a problem with it. I know a lot of people don't like it, but the city needs revenue. The city needs to survive. And in my opinion, any type of activity in a controlled environment warrants our looking at heavily or very seriously, because of the city needing the revenue. We got to survive. If we don't do stuff like this, how are we gonna keep our trails up, all the trails we have now? All of this money that comes in from these is gonna go in to help and improve the trail. I think Brian is come up with this plan to mingle all these committees and get a plan to keep these trails. We don't have a maintenance plan, so to speak, a plan that says we're going to do so much trail every week or so much trail every month until this is all, and then maintain that trail. We don't have that because we don't have the money for it. And I just think that we can help the city by letting this happen.
I think my biggest concern is, as a Parks Commissioner, I feel the responsibility that we have to do everything we can to promote the parks and the open space for public use to everybody. And I completely understand. I guess in my own mind I have a small conflict of interest because as a board of director on the NHA, I also have a commitment to the Horsemen's Association to look out for the equestrian side of everything that we do in town. If these were specifically horse-only trails and a bike group wanted to come in and use them for biking, then I would think I've got an easy decision. But because these are legally accessible to pedestrians and bicyclists and equestrians already, I feel my initial reaction is we really can't discriminate and say we cannot not allow illegal use of that open space. When I go to city council meetings, when I go to planning commission meetings, and I hear people talking about I should be able to do and build on my own property, and you get all these arguments about, well, we have a PACA, we don't want you to build on the PACA, but the guy says, but I still want to build a barn, or I want to build a swimming pool. There's always that balance between property rights and we want to preserve the PACAs and things because we want Norco to stay horse town. So I feel like it's the same kind of a battle here. We've got a public open space where bicycles are already allowed. For us to say, no, you can't do something that you're legally allowed to do already, I just kind of feel that's why I was leaning toward moving forward with this. A couple of days ago, there was at least one, the one that I saw, there was a very long thread on Facebook with a lot of different comments, and it made me think of a couple of different things that I hadn't thought of before. So I'm really glad we've got this meeting, joint meeting tonight, and I definitely want to hear the input from the audience. But that was my initial decision on the subcommittee level when we talked to the promoter without any public input was, how could we say no to a public use that's already allowed? And the fact that the promoter is going to take care of the trail, try to do remediation, fix the trail if there's any damage to the trail from the bike. So the objective would be if you came the day before the race and then you came the day after the race, would you be able to tell that the race had even happened? And if the goal is that you wouldn't even know, had you gone out of town that day, you wouldn't even know that the race happened, then I felt that he was trying to be accommodating and wanted to do the mitigation measures to put the trail back, whatever parts of the trail, whatever would need to be done so that the bikes, if there's any damage from the bikes. But again, if bikes go up there today and they just ride around and go crazy, they're not going to stop and fix the trail when they're done. But yet that's still allowed. They can go up and do that right now. So it is a very tough thing to weigh. But my personal decision is different from what I'm feeling as a Parks Commissioner, I have to weigh the overall good of everybody who is allowed to use our parks and open space. So that's where I'm at right now, but I'm certainly going to have an open mind and listen to the feedback.
I'm going to piggyback off Jeff. When we first had this discussion, that is the first thing in our mind as a Parks Commissioner. Okay, these trails are open to everybody. So they're open to horseback riders, equestrian, bicyclists, and anyone that wants to walk or hike up there. And so we want to try and keep an open mind. And I think that's part of the reason we wanted to move this forward into a bigger discussion, is so that the public would have a chance to have some input. And one of our biggest concerns was safety. So if we were to move forward with a project like this, how do we mitigate the safety issues? How do we promote it early enough that maybe equestrians know that that one day would not be a good day to ride up in the hills? How do we mitigate, one of the trails happens to be coming down on Vandermolen, and is there a way to mitigate that and not utilize a proper street trail? That way it doesn't affect any horseback riders that want to ride up in the hills that day if they want to use just the regular trails. So there's a lot of different issues that we need to look at, but we need to all be open-minded. And I think when we were able to listen to the promoter, going through fixing trails, making sure that there's signage, having volunteers that would make sure that horses, if they were in the area, were a little safer, because they do have volunteers that help with the ride. And I also think that some of the things that people have maybe seen or heard, because I wasn't sure what an enduro ride race was myself when we first got the information, but I think some people feel that maybe, there's going to be 500 bike riders up there whizzing down the hill all at one time. So hopefully the promoter can kind of give the audience a better feel of what the race is actually going to be like. And maybe that would mitigate some of the anxiety that horseback riders may have. I completely understand horses and bicycles and other craziness that they might have to run into, and that can be a little scary, and it makes some of us a little nervous. I run into all kinds of crazy stuff out on the trails. Sometimes my horses don't even bat an eyelash. I'm going, oh my God, look, there's a sofa, and the horse walks right by it. And some days, a leaf rolls by and you don't notice it, but the horse is running off and you can't figure out what it's afraid of that day. So I think a lot of us have ridden horses, and so we can understand how that is. But as a commission member, we want to try and make sure that we promote anything and everything in this town that can, involve families, kids, outdoor exercise, utilizing our parks, utilizing our trails in any way that we can make it safe for everybody.
Thanks. Now we're going to hear from Don, the promoter.
Just a minute, and just for the commission and the audience, our designation for our trail system and for this particular area doesn't, I think Bill had a question, use the trail, and Jeff's comment is correct. The trail, there is no designation that bicycles are not allowed up here. In fact, bicycles are allowed on all of our trails currently the way the code reads. So it is a multi-purpose. Unless that changes by statute or law within the city, it is open to those pedestrians, equestrians, bicycles, but most definitely no motorized vehicles.
Thank you.
Okay, Don, if you could come up and maybe do a presentation, and we have a little thing, and maybe you could talk about the ride. What is an enduro ride? Educate our audience, talk about what you're looking at, and then, you're taking a look at the map all the time of what should or shouldn't be done, and if you could provide an update to us, that would be great.
Well, first off, my name's Don Jackson. I've been promoting mountain bike races for 24 plus years, heading into 25. And as far as equestrian, I grew up down the street at the Bar C Ranch off the 2nd Street. My dad was a horse trainer, so I'm fully aware of livestock. Been around it my whole life. I chose the two-wheel. The rest of the family still do their horse equestrian. The race that we're that we're looking at, it would be a small event compared to the ones we've been putting on at Fontana. Fontana's never paid a single dime for the event to be hosted. They've never pulled any money out of their pocket for anything whatsoever. We've incurred all the costs for the last 24 years, heading into 25 silver. So what this event will entail for the size of the mountain that it is would be a 3-stage race. So you would have several hundred riders or so. You'd like, 500, but that's not going to happen. But the first segment here, you would do a short time trial off the purple line there. That course is probably just under a minute, probably 45 seconds, I'd want to say, from start to finish. The course will have directional arrows, so the riders will only be going down that course at that time. We have track markers that we put out with barrier tape that keep pedestrians off the course during our own events that we host in Fontana. From there, the riders will gather themselves, work their way back up to stage 2. Stage 2, just like any other enduro race, will take place. They'll head down in a timed event in 30-second intervals. So you're not going to have 200 riders going down the hill at one time. We can shove 120 riders down an hour, or we can shove 188 riders down an hour. So we've got the ability to go 20-second intervals or 30-second intervals, or 1-minute intervals to keep the trail clear, make sure hazards don't occur, make sure it's pedestrians and equestrian or everybody else that's spectating. Because that's going to be the biggest thing, is spectators, making sure that people are aware. Once they finish their second stage, there'll be a gather at the bottom. Everybody will eat their snacks, rehydrate, get ready to come up for the longest third stage after the second one, which will probably be 30 minutes after the completion of the second stage. Roughly time, you're probably looking at less than 6 hours from start to finish in the morning. The biggest factor is going to be the night before, the day before, lining the course, setting up the markers, and then going back in the morning, making sure they're all still up, and then going back and running the event and then taking it all down and cleaning up the hill and stepping off the hill. I have an event this weekend, which is our 24th annual Southridge Challenge in Fontana, in Southridge Park, on the backside of the old bird farm. You guys are more than welcome to come out and see what we do firsthand. You commingle in there, see what's happening. We have equestrians that do ride our mountains all the time. We just forewarn the neighbors and anybody else, hey, there's an event coming up, and everybody will use side trails to get around to where their destination leads them to. There's enough area in this whole region that you can still have people riding over here off the side, down in here, without even interfering with anything. I hope I covered most of it. I've probably done this a couple times earlier, but anybody have any questions, any thoughts, any concerns?
How many spectators do you think might be there?
I'm sorry, Sid?
How many spectators?
Spectators are based on rider count, so if we have 200 riders, you're going to say 1.5 to 2 riders will be with spectators. Depending on the homes, with me in Fontana, we have 10,000 homes in a 5-mile radius. So when the police department gives me the report or shows me the aerial, there's probably 3,000 to 5,000 people lining the side of the hill. And again, that's a safety concern for me, not equestrian, not anything. Just if that bike comes off the trail and hits a spectator, or how close are they to the course. So there's a lot of variables that go in, not just the common courtesy of up and down the hill or horses and bicyclists running into each other. There's more to this whole thing at stake than
Do we have enough parking?
Yes.
Are you planning on using the grandstands underneath the covered arena?
I don't believe so. I mean, not that we're not putting anything inside there. We're not touching the dirt in there. We're kind of off to the side where the parking lot first opens up, and I guess there's an overflow section just to the north of that. So really, I mean, based on the techs and the amount of people coming in, I don't foresee us, other than them getting out of the sun or something, if it's a bright day or if it's raining,
I think during our discussions, it was on the east cab of the Eagles.
Yeah, I think, it's up in the northeast corner.
Northeast corner.
Northeast corner is kind of where it leads into that trail, because they've got an embankment that's cut like right in here, that's not practical to walk up or ride up or even, you know. I'm sorry, you got a question?
Well, these riders.
Wait,
have-
comments are coming back to commissioners' comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right now.
I apologize.
Speak if you'd like. If you want to get
I'm sorry.
outside.
I do have a question on the rental of facility, although that falls more under Parks and Recreation. But you're not then going to be renting the facility except for maybe just the parking area, is that correct? Or, because I'm kind of worried about other, if you're not going to be renting the arenas and things like that, will other activities be able to take place? You know, how's the commingling going to work, that kind of stuff, if it works that way?
You know, good question. If they have other events scheduled there in that time, I mean, that would be, you know, something the city would have to look at if we're gonna host our event with somebody else, and it will go inside with each other. We do an event in Angel Fire, they call it the Chili Challenge, and they have a big cook-off and mountain bike ride, and, you know, they have these taverns that, you know, crank and brews that, you know, they serve beer and they ride the bike. So, I mean, yeah, if you're wanting to host another event during the same time we do, we're not opposed to it, as long as none of us are imposing on each other's, you know, ability to host the event properly.
There's enough room for where he's proposing the event to take place, and for me to still run an event out of Clark Arena. You know, we want to get through one event to see how this goes, but I've spoken to several people, they're up for the challenge, and as long as we kind of are able to keep with the path and the trail, and we can delineate the arenas and parking, we can run another event up there.
Well, I was thinking in terms of revenue for the city, if they were just renting a parking area, or if they were renting the whole facility, because I would hate to see us lose revenue.
Oh, no, trust me. I will put whatever I can in both of those arenas with that event happening, or to find an event that would benefit with a bike race up there, and the local organizations benefit to having that many spectators, and they're able to sell, you know, be a vendor at that facility as a fundraiser.
In regards to the spectators and the particular difficulty of this particular course, how would you rate this and related to the bikers that are going to be on it from a safety viewpoint?
You know, what's really nice about it is it's a good open space, so you've got a good visual from, probably you sit in your car and see 90% of that course is on both sides. You know, you may miss this upper part and lower part from the parking lot back in here, but these two spots here, you'll be able to see from top to bottom just sitting in your car. So I feel pretty comfortable on those two courses. Yeah, these become, because you're using different sections here, but with our course marshals and our radios, you know, we know what's going on. You know, if you get a rider down, you got to be able to get to them. So, you know, if you don't see them, you definitely got to make sure you get the bodies and stuff there to take care of it. Yeah.
I've got a question. You said at the start of the first race,
Yes.
the purple, do you have a designated access?
You know what, when I walked, Lance and I have walked this mountain range, and I've ridden this mountain range years and years ago. I've been riding mountain bikes for almost 30 years. But right up here, there's actually a secondary trail here that the riders would come up and stage to start here. So there's a trail here that we would bring in, because I have to look at the overflow. I can't have them just walking up the trail backwards to start the race. So I've got to make sure that where I'm staging them, I have it clear enough, you know, and like I said, you're more than welcome to see what we do up there in Fontana, but when you have 350 plus riders lining up the side of the mountain to go down the hill, you know, you got to have a good staging area. So those are always things in the back of my mind, is how are we going to stage it, make sure that we're not going to hurt anybody.
And the same with the second stage and the third
Second stage is we're clear up. There's actually a trail that comes up off the side here that would allow me staging down off this road. They would come in over here.
Yeah, because the way you said it, they would just make their way up there.
Correct. I apologize for not pointing that out sooner.
They're
There are
scattered all over that hill to get one spot.
network trails. There are network trails that connect all through here. There's a couple in here. This map doesn't really show you a clear view, but no, that was my concern, is not having riders come back on themselves. And even coming in on the backside over here, even though this is a little steeper, this isn't wide, there's 2 trails right here. So we come in over here to stage to get into the second stage. Third stage, there shouldn't be any problem. They come back up the trail that they just rode down on, start them up here, and then run back around. So, yeah, staging is one of my concerns anyway, but yes, thanks for bringing
Don,
that
the
up.
speed trial from beginning to end, how long does it take?
The second one,
For the purple?
the purple, you know, I'd like to believe it's a minute, but I don't believe it is.
With all the riders, estimated riders, how long from beginning to end before that speed trial is complete? That's segment.
Well, I mean, I can shove 120 riders an hour. So, you know, if it's a 1-minute course, you know, that's where we're at.
2 hours.
So you're gonna have I have usually 3 to 5 riders on the course at the same time during start. Our courses are generally 3.5, 4 minutes long. So every 30-second intervals or 20-second intervals, if we have a large number of riders that we gotta get down the hill because we're doing a second run or something. So based on the rider entry will allow me to calibrate 20-second or 30-second or 1-minute intervals.
One of the things that would be conditioned is just for everyone's knowledge, is that they come out of the egress on that trail. We would have, at the entry of gate 1 would be a turn point, so you would not be going up that far, so that you would not. So we have, if a vehicle was to come up, it would be turned right before you get out of that egress.
Yeah,
so we have, no, just so that for the record, we would barricade that, so cars can still come in, but they come in from now, so there's no conflict with the rider or vehicle.
How technical will this course be?
I'm sorry.
How technical will this course be?
You know what? I apologize, these hills are not that technical.
No.
They're probably more of a beginner intermediate versus an expert or pro, but we can do things to elevate the cardiovascular, to make the person, you know, spend a little bit more energy. And a lot of times we route, you know, 2 different courses, one for the beginner and sport riders and then one for the expert and pro riders. So they, you know, on their ability and their skill.
So a lot of it are going to be people that aren't going to be excessively aggressive.
Well, everybody's, when you have more, it's like a horse race. You get more than one out of the gate, it's a race. You know, you got 2 riders, it's a race. I don't care if you're out on the road trail riding or going home, you know, 1 or more is always a race. So they're going to be competitive. And my groups are 9 years old to 7-year-olds. And actually, we're creating a 100-year class. I've got a 79-year-old guy that doesn't want to ride with the punk kids. So, I mean, we get it, trust me. It's,
So each, you have a different age group.
Is this enough time?
Yep, from 9 to 70.
Other questions?
Yeah. Kind of under discussion now, but I mean, should I?
This is Russ, yeah.
Russ,
That's
okay.
a question too.
All right, number 1, Patty, you said something about signs. If this could be a one-day event, why would we ever need any signs put up at all, permanent signs? That doesn't make any sense to me. You said somebody, Eagle Scout's doing signs for this thing? I mean, if it's a one-day event, why would we?
That's probably our discussion.
The triangle with
Right.
the who yields to who stuff, that can,
Well, because the trails are currently in use with bicycles.
Yeah.
It's open today to the public for use.
We know it's open to the public for use by bicycles, but we do not at this time have a bicycle problem, okay? I raised half the kids in Norco, and people that know me will attest to that. And I know kids pretty well. When you bring 200 kids in there on bikes, and they're gonna run their course, they're gonna have their day, they're gonna go back to school, and they're gonna tell, each of them gonna tell 3 of their friends about this really great bike trail up in Norco.
Yeah.
And boom, the kids are gonna start coming in with their bikes. Then what's gonna happen is when these 12 and 13, 14-year-olds get to be 15, and they get a motorbike for Christmas, it's the first place they're gonna go.
and then they go straight to do it.
Well,
No,
Yeah.
My son went to
kids, and a lot of kids that are gonna be spectators in this, kids imitate other kids, okay? Now, I know in Norco we used to have little jumps all over town, but that's kind of gone away. We don't have that many kids that are doing bikes in Norco right now. But I can tell you for a fact that if you bring a bunch of kids in here on bikes, we're gonna start having a bike problem. We are. And since it's legal, we can't get rid of them, okay?
Can I make a statement here real quick? because you keep referring to the riders as kids. The age demographic I deal with is 29 to 45. So they're not kids, and they're not driving 55 on the freeway, and they're doing...
These are grown-ups that are...
They're grown-ups. These aren't little kids. My group is 9 years old to 70. 70-year-olds. So when you're saying kids, if you look at my demographic,
And a lot of spectators are gonna be kids, and they see their dads riding these bikes, and they wanna go ride these trails too. This is just gonna happen, I'm gonna tell you right now. I know it. I know enough about kids to know that for a fact. Now, I understand that at one time, Norco had a thing over Snipes Park with dirt bikes, you know, bicycles.
BMX.
BMX, right.
Not dirt.
And for some reason, that thing went by the wayside because it got too dangerous. And the liability got to be such that nobody wanted to pick it up, so they stopped doing it. So you know, our horse trails in Norco are real sacred to a lot of people. And these are horse trails. All right? If it wasn't for the horses, these trails wouldn't exist. And I would be against bringing anything into our city that we don't already have. And I know it's, Jeff said, you know, well, it's another recreation thing, but I mean, they're having all these rides in Fontana. It ain't like the kids have nowhere to go. So I would be totally against anything coming into Norco.
Any questions on the Don?
Nope, thank you for your opinion.
I have a question. On your website, I took a look at it, and I thought it was very well organized, and I feel like you're doing a great job.
Thank you, thank you.
Would you be opposed, or would you also put some verbiage on there and on your blogs about this community being the way it is and why they would have to be extra careful if they came up?
We can, yeah, we can do e-blasts, we can do, you know, things that are, you know, raise concern, but
That's what
you
people
know,
are looking at.
I get it, and I think you're comparing two different types of disciplines or sports with kids and BMX bikes and liability. You said it, nobody wants to pick up the liability because it does become a costly burden if something comes down. But when you look at the demographic of the riders that we deal with, they're family oriented, they are, my core group are 29 to 45. They're established people. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're dentists. Their spendable income is $50,000 to $150,000 a year as professionals, and they're riding bicycles. So for people to worry about their trails being over inundated, I brought an individual here that's lived in Norco for the last 20 years. And I'd love you guys to hear from him, you know, because truthfully, I think a lot of what's being said, he can sum it up because he's here. I'm around the corner. Yeah, I grew up here and there and around here and equestrian. I don't foresee, you know, 50,000 people coming here and riding your trails, sir. They don't do it in Fontana, and it's open space for them to do it all day long there. Yeah, they go and train and ride, they go home, and you don't even know they were there because they were there at 6 o'clock in the morning. So.
Right. One thing I have been on a lot of trails with bikes. I used to ride on bikes. And the one thing I do like about this course is it is very visible and open. If you encounter a bike up there someday when you're riding, you're going to be able to see this person from a long ways away, and he's going to be able to see you. Not like riding at San Rosa Plateau or Marshall Canyon that's very congested, because I've ridden out there too. And a lot of hidey hole places where people really can't get off the trail because of the foliage.
Correct.
All of the overgrowth. This is pretty bare.
It's open, and the courteous thing is everybody kind of pull to the side and let each other pass in cordial.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with a mountain bike. In fact, they went out of their way to pull over and stop. I've had problems with horse, but that's my problem, not theirs.
Gotcha.
So I'm totally for it. I've never ridden
In
it.
Benelli Park, and this is very similar, and you can see the bikes way over there.
Yeah, and you definitely can see
And if you
that
They
whole
can't come
operation.
from behind you because it's open.
You can see a lot of the area, which is nice. It makes it, for me, it makes it less stressful because I'm not worrying about what's happening in the middle of the canyon somewhere that I can't see.
I think that's a big pro.
Well, we hope that everybody we'll keep an open mind.
Thank you. Just to kind of follow up with Richard's question, the part of why we had wanted the signs, Parks and Rec has talked about signage for multi-purpose use for years. We just have never had the money to do them all. So this was kind of an open opportunity for us to really push for a lot of signage up in the hills. Anywhere that we have our old, people are familiar with them, our old markers with the U shape that have all the maps on them and stuff. So being able to put up some markers so that if we do have bike riders, which we know we already do, they can maybe see the signage and understand, and maybe we can educate people a little bit. And that was part of our, concern about making sure that this is promoted heavily up front, and that we make sure that if we do this, that there's something left behind for education so that maybe people do understand right away. That was just a follow-up on that signage question.
Also, the stimulus that could be created for the city. They gotta get fuel, they gotta eat, so we see it where we're at now.
Your majority of your bike riders local, or do they come from?
They come from all over. They come from Nevada, they come from Arizona, they come from Colorado, they come from Oregon, they come down.
So you have people to be
Everybody
average
comes from all
hotels?
over. Majority, can be, Southern California, San Diego here. There's a bunch that live here in this area that race,
So they use the hotels as well?
Exactly. They're definitely, our host hotel at Fontana is the Hilton Garden. They do a great job at taking care of the riders. They'll pick them up at the airport. They bring, when we host our world event in the 1st of April, we have people come from all over the world. Our Olympic competitors participate at our events. They come to get points to earn to go represent the U.S. in the Olympics. So this isn't just some little backyard sport that's going to take over. It's here, it's in the Olympics. BMX is now in the Olympics, so you're going to see those kind of things popping up if they can generate revenue. But, with that said, we're not trying to put on a World Cup race here. We're not trying to inundate the mountain with more than it can handle. Trust me, because it's stressful for me enough. I got enough gray hair to deal with it every other weekend.
Okay, thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments there. We're going to move on to the comment section. The cards here, if you would like to fill out a card, there's one in the hallway. We'll start on that right now. So first up is Terry Ike Clayton.
Terry Ike Clayton.
There's a 3-minute time limit, so okay.
I'm a resident for about 20 years. I'm 57 years old. Mountain biking has saved my life. In 2010, I had a condition called heart block, third-degree heart block, and I had a pacemaker put in. Since that time, I've ridden over 17,000 miles, and 90% of them are here in Norco, in those Norco hills. I don't hurt the trails. I want to tell you, I have stopped and actually, in the rain ruts up the top by the pumpkin where you go down and worked on trails, because I couldn't get through there either. I ride those trails all the time. If you want to give me your phone number, I'll be glad to take you up there and we can ride those hills. I just want to thank you all. This is a great opportunity for Norco, and I think it's a great thing. It might even inspire people to get a bicycle and get healthy. Like I said, I'm 57 years old with a pacemaker, and I can ride those hills. To it, over 3,500 miles this year already, and over 500,000 feet of climbing. So, I want to inspire people to get a bicycle and get up in the Norco Hills. There's nothing wrong with it. The other thing I want to leave you with is, I'm an avid horseman too. I'm a former member of the Norco Mounted Posse. I've also done mounted shooting. But the reality is, this year, I don't really see that many riders up there on horses. There isn't, as much as you want to think there's like thousands of horses up there, there's very little horsebacking up in those hills. Besides the Norco Mounted Posse, or the Saddle Sore Riders.
Saddle Sore.
Yeah, I saw them up there one day, But I have to say, out of 5 years and 17,000 miles, I have never had a problem with the horses. Never. So up there in the hills, you know, everybody works it out and it's no problem. So anyway, I hope you guys all vote for it. I think it's a great thing.
Thank you, Ted. Next up, Kathy Thistleweed.
When Frank Hall was alive and on our council, he suggested that there be a sign on the desk of every council person and staff member that read, "How will this decision affect the horse trails?" I'm almost willing to pay for those signs right now. Proper signage is great if it's read and followed. I'm an avid horse rider, and I can say that my horse's hooves have stopped mountain bikes twice. I've had a mountain biker slide a bike underneath my horse. He's broke to death, thank God, or I'd be in the hospital worse. Not every mountain biker is courteous. Not every kid that's going to go up there in the hills is going to follow the signs. A bike rider will always have the advantage over a rider if the horse is nervous. And you are at the mercy of whatever that rider wants to do. I am opposed to this because of what will happen afterwards. During the day of the race, you can have things regulated, and that's fantastic. After the race, we get 300 kids that decide they want to go out and play. You looked at that purple line up there and said that takes about a minute to run down. I do not want to be on that trail with my horse on a kid trying to better his time. Racers wear helmets and they wear lots of body armor for a reason. They ride fast. They're not up there looking for view. Mountain biking is different. Racing is a whole different animal. You're out mountain biking, yeah, you're going to encounter the view. You're also going to be looking very carefully at the terrain you're about to encounter. But when you're racing, you have one goal in mind, and that's to get down that hill faster than everybody else. As fast as you can, and that does not keep in mind a horse and rider coming around the corner, coming uphill. I see this as a disaster of the making. I've ridden Marshall Canyon, I've ridden Fullerton, and I've been run into twice. Most of the riders are very courteous. It's the one or two that aren't, that put you in the hospital, or worse. An incident last year in Northern California, a couple kids on mountain bikes left a woman laying on the ground 2 hours before someone could get to her. Her horse left her. She had broken pelvis. Look it up. It's all over the internet a year ago. Those kids were never found. Great parenting, folks. They weren't accountable for anything. I can see that happening up here. It's remote enough. I can just see having a kid come around a corner. It won't be a kid. It'll be a 20-year-old who drove his truck up as far as he could and then took a ride. And there are YouTube videos, by the way. You can look at it and see what the guys are doing up there right now, and they are fast. I'm not concerned about bike riders up there for a pleasure ride. Most of them are very courteous. It's the ones that aren't. And we are Horsetown, USA. Griffith Park has 3,000 acres, and they don't allow mountain bikes on their horse trails. I see no problem with us limiting that here as well.
I'm sorry, they do that.
Next, Gregory.
Evening, everyone. First off, I want to say thank you to staff, commissioners, Mr. Jackson, and the residents for attending and discussing this. When I brought this, and my intent was to bring this forward, is to generate stimulus in town without the need for the city to spend money. So I asked Mr. Jackson to come forward and discuss this with us. And I'm glad to see that we're actually taking the time to actually vet this thoroughly to make sure if it's a good fit or not. Since October, there's been a lot of talk about this, and I told them I would express some of these concerns in their comments. Bikes and horses don't mix. They've had bad experience, close calls. Bike riders have no respect for courteous to equine. Norco needs to promote and support more equine events instead. Lower the arena rates and put stalls in. There will be no revenue generated. Riders will come and go without stopping in our city. We're selling out our city and harming the equine community. Comparing the bikes to Marshall Canyon and Chino Hills. Riders come and ride once and they find out the trails exist. They'll ride all the time. Yucaipa events and trails were damaged by riders. Hikers have had a bad experience with bikers. If we listen to the arguments, we also have to listen to what might happen arguments, we also have to know the what if arguments. This is a terrible idea. It's a bad idea. Use Montana de Oro as an example. Accidents happen due to spooking, and Norco is losing its ground by bit. And there was also a lot of pros that were also posted. We need to share and coexist on our trails. Proper education would help. Do not see any problem with riders on the hills because they already exist up there. Provide staff with notice of closure. Riders in Chino understand and respect equine. Never had any bad experiences. Riders typically get off the trails or their bikes when horses are going by. It's a public open space for all to use. Glad to see this discussion and transparency. Not sure a one-day event would even have an impact. Excellent way to generate revenue. And so many more. But now with all that said, I just want to say it personally, my intent is to do what we can to generate and create stimulus in this town. As we all know, we're having an infrastructure issue. Is this one-day event going to be the solution? Absolutely not. It's going to take many events like this. We can't keep saying no to everything. But we thoroughly vet it. We listen to the residents, as we're doing right now. If this commission, joint commission put together, decides and determines this isn't a good fit, so be it. I've got nothing to gain from this except to try and help this town generate some stimulus and help pay for our trails and our streets. Because right now, we're losing them daily. Trail fencing is going down. We don't have the money to pay for it. Thank you.
Josh, Teal, that's correct.
Yep, that's right. I'm actually a relatively new resident to Norco. I moved here because I have horses. That probably explain a lot, right? But I'm also a very, very avid mountain biker, a triathlete, more of a cross-country racer as opposed to enduro. So in the mountain bike world, we consider enduro to be a group ride with a little bit of timing involved. It's a lot of hanging out, a lot of relaxing, a lot of easy pedaling, with just a short downhill run. So it's not, you know, blazing nonstop all day long craziness. It's more just hanging out, relaxing, social event. Most of the trails that we'd be running, I would ride my horse on because I wouldn't want him to break a leg trying to get up those hills. So I wouldn't be worried too much about that, except the one trail that is going through the residence area. I personally wouldn't want to ride my bike on that at any rate of speed, because I wouldn't want to, you know, I wouldn't want to deal with it when I'm on my horse. But that said, you know, as far as risk of injury, I've been kicked off my horse many times when there was no mountain bikes around. I have not fallen off yet when there was a bike around. So I'm not going to blame a bike for me falling off the horse. So obviously I'm all for it. You expect to see me racing there. That'll be the day I don't ride my horse up on those hills because I'll be on my mountain bike that day. But I do spend about an equal amount of time on my horse as I do on my bike there. Because to be honest, if I want to go mountain biking, I go somewhere else. Norco Hills are good for some exercise. They're not somewhere I want to go for a good, long, fun ride. I go to Sycamore Canyon, Corona, up to Big Bear. This isn't somewhere you're going to expect to see, you know, hordes of mountain bikers after this event come and take up our trails and ruin it for the horses. You might get one or two more, you know, a weekend. That's not going to kill your ride. It's not going to kill my ride. I'm still not going to be afraid to ride my horse up there on those hills. If anyone has any questions about this, as far as a rider and a mountain biker, please feel free to ask me. And I will give any sort of help or input to keep this safe for everybody, because I do ride these on my horse, and I care about him more than I care about my mountain bike. Oh, and I'm the perfect demographic, 35-year-old, pretty successful. I'm riding one of the cheap bicycles out there. Mine was only $5,000. So that'll kind of give you an idea.
How much did you pay for your horse?
A lot less. Should we say annually? I'm here for
Thank you, Joshua.
Good for you.